So I'm in a bit of a mess. I went over to get some half and half. And I just want to tell you what happened when I went over to the store. Now, the store is not very far from where I am, but I didn't take my umbrella. So, of course, my hair is really curly, so it got wet. Well, so there was a young lad, and he was sitting at the store, and he was sitting underneath you know, the outcropping that they have at the store. And he looked so pathetic. He looked so pitiful. He looked sad. He looked downtrodden. He looked down on his luck. He was wearing pajama bottoms. He had a very thin spring coat on. He was like this, freezing. Like you could tell he was freezing. And you know, I have a son. I have a son who is. I mean, he's got a wonderful job. He has you know, a good life going on, and you know, this young man was about my son's age, maybe a little bit younger than my son, but very, very thin, very pale. And I took a look at that, and I was like, I walked by because of the fact, I mean, I posted a video, you can watch it, where I was attacked by a homeless person who was high on some illicit drug, and that happened a while back. But this young lad was very quiet, very demure. I said hi to him, he said hi. I said, it's pouring rain, and I said, it's not too nice of weather today. I said, it's going to be a little rough on everybody, and he goes, that's for sure, ma'am. Polite as polite can be. So I walked by. And I went across the road, where, by the way, at one point I was actually tailed by another person who was on illicit drugs a second time after I'd been assaulted. And so I was walking across to go to my home, and I was thinking, geez, that's bad. And, you know, I was down to my last, let's be honest, I'm not going to bullshit. I'm going to tell you the truth. I was down to my last $7, and I had to get some milk. And we're not even done the month yet. I'm a senior, right? So fixed income. So I had gone over to the store with $7, but the milk only cost like, I don't know, three something, right? So I used change and $3. I still had $4 left. No, that's not true. I had $7. And it was $3.99, and so I had $3 left in my pocket. And he wasn't begging. He didn't have a cup or a jar there. He didn't have a sign. He was just huddled as far as he could be close to the parking lot, huddled with his coat tied around, like literally held like this, and shaken and cold. So I was putting my hand in my pocket as I was walking past and going, and I went right past him. Don't think I didn't. I walked right past him. So I was thinking, I'm not getting into this shit again. But, you know, my bleeding heart got the better of me. And I shouldn't say it's a bleeding heart, but I do have a sense of compassion because I've been there. And at one point in my life, I had to utilize the food banks. And I had gone to this one particular food bank, and this lady said to me, well, if you hadn't put yourself in this situation, you'd have food. She wasn't aware of the fact of what I was coming from, what I was fleeing. But she was very blunt, and I walked out of there with my kids in tow, and I never went back to that particular place. But I did go, you know, I was able to pull myself out of the doldrums, and I was able to continue with my life. So I thought about that. And I put my hand in my pocket, and I pulled out that $3, and I looked at it, and I thought, you know, whatever. Like, you know, it's not like, I have enough food at home. I have a roof over my head. I have clothes, clean clothes. I have warm clothes. I have a pair of boots. I mean, someone stole my winter coat, but I still have, you know, I was wearing a coat. I wasn't freezing, right? And my coat was waterproof. And I thought, you know, I got to do something. Like, it's just wrong to walk by someone who's freezing. And I don't care what situation they're in, okay? Someone's freezing, they're soaking wet. So I went back. And I said, listen, are you homeless? And he says, yeah. And he told me this story about, I'm not going to put it on here because that's nobody's business but his. And the only reason is he had come to this area for work. And I guess that work fell through, and he was kind of left on his lurches. And he had no support system here because he had come across the country. But any other details, I'm not going to tell you. But that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be because of drugs. It doesn't have to be because of abuse. It doesn't have to be because it could be any reason, okay? So when you walk by somebody, I mean, sure, be aware of your safety and don't be going, don't be going out of your way to contribute if you're not sure of your safety. Okay, but it was the middle of the day. There's a lot of people around. He certainly wasn't following me home. He wasn't begging. He didn't have no sign. So I thought, okay, you know what? So I gave him the $3. And I said, go get yourself a warm coffee or a hot chocolate or something. It's not much, but it's a little something. And I left again. And this is how bad it was. Okay, so I left and I was gone for about half an hour. I came home, I put my stuff away. And I was thinking, I have some clothes that belong to my son, some winter sweaters that he no longer needs. And I thought, there's a really thick one in there. So I went in and I got that thick sweater. And I thought, you know what? I have 2 umbrellas. I don't need both of them. It's pouring rain outside, by the way, in November. I don't need both of them. And it's one of those really big umbrellas, and I got it from, I think it was dollar store, like $1.15. Like what? Like it's gonna put me destitute now. So I got the umbrella. It's a really big umbrella, and I got the sweater. I put it in a bag, and I thought, you know what? I don't want thanks. I don't want nothing. I don't want good karma. This is just because it's horrible to see people like that in a country. And I'm in Canada. In a country like Canada, to see people homeless, living on the street. And you know what? I have been there. That's a whole nother story. And I had posted about it in my previous videos from my previous channels from my previous channel that I had deleted because I thought, this is the end of it. I'm done, right? Anyhow, I've been homeless. I know what it's like. So, and there's been lots. I always had a car, always had a job, but I was homeless. I lived in my car. I slept on friends' couches. I even stayed at a hotel a couple of times when I had the funds. I even slept at work. I had a job one time where they knew I was sleeping in my car, that my kids were at a distance. Like, I wasn't homeless, okay, but I was homeless because I was working out of town and I couldn't afford a motel. I couldn't get I couldn't afford that, leaving. My kids were in one area and I had to work in another, so I either stayed at a motel or stayed at a friend's place, but if I had no place to stay. So anyway, my job let me sleep in one of the spare rooms, and I worked a lot of hours, and it was wintertime and it was cold and I was tired, and I worked a lot of hours. So I know what it's like. Right? I know what it's like. I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. And a lot of the times, if you don't have a family support system, which I didn't, I never really have. Like I had no family member that I could call up and say, hey, sis, it's freezing outside and I don't have money for a motel. Can I crash on your couch? Didn't happen, never happened. Never happened. And so I know what that's like. And, being estranged from family members or friends or even being at a distance from family members that can help you can be tough. And so this young fella told me he had come from a far distance, and it was far enough the point that there's no way in hell he could, get help. Anyhow, so I thought, what, it's not going to kill me. So I took the umbrella, I took the sweater, I went back over, soaking wet. Thank God my hair looks good curly. Because I was not going to open that umbrella. There was no way I was going to open that umbrella, because when I give it to him, it was going to be working for him. So I thought, yeah, whatever, right? And I walked over, and I went around the corner, and the young fellow was still sitting there, still huddled, still freezing, no sign, no jar, wasn't panhandling, nothing, just sitting there freezing. And I said, do you have a place to go for the night? And he said, no, all the shelters are full. He said, I went over to the inn, there's a motel, I guess, and he says, I asked if they had a room and how much it would be, and they said, like, whatever, and he said, I still need about $45. I said, well, I'm going to see if I can get you a sign, and maybe you can make that $45, because, everybody's going grocery shopping. And people noticed me talking to him, and so I think they noticed that I had given money, and so they kind of chipped in, right? There was a one fella came over and patted the guy on the back, handed him $3, had a little bit of conversation, and I was thinking, God bless him, so, or whoever your divine is. So then I went into the store and I asked them if they had a piece of paper and a marker, and I told them why I needed it. And the manager said to me, we can't. And the reason why, he said, is because there's been an influx of people who are kind of gravitating to the doors, and they're hanging around here long into the night, and it's a safety concern. I thought, okay, I do understand that. But we had a conversation, me and the manager, about the fact that we have so many homeless people in Canada, and even in the place that I live, in the town I live, the city I live, we have a large population that is homeless, and some because of their own fault, because of drug addiction, some because they choose to live like that, because they don't want to take any money that they get and put it into a rental space, right? However, this young fellow was different. He was freezing. He said, I haven't slept good for a couple of nights. He said, because I've been staying at the shelter overnight. He said, I really haven't slept very good, and the shelters are all full. I've tried them all. And he said, so I asked him, they said, the price, and he said, I got to make $45. So I wondered why he didn't take the money I had given him and go and buy a coffee or food. And I said, is that why you're holding on to the money? And the only money that he made while I was there was me and the other fella. And I think, so that would have totaled like $7. And he needed 45. And I'm low income, and that was my, I don't have any. If I would have, if I was flush, I might just slide it out. I might say, here, you go get yourself a room, but I didn't. So after I talked to the manager, I came out. The manager said he knew someone that worked in the shelter system, or worked as a volunteer, and he might know some information for the young fella. So I said, are you going to get him? I'm going to take you on your word. You're going to get him. And he said, yeah, I'm going to call him right now. I'm going to get him to come down and see what he can do, or see if he knows any information for this young man. So I said, I'm going to hold you to your word. And I went out to talk to the young fella, and I told him I couldn't get him a piece of paper. I told him why. I said, they're probably going to ask you to leave. They're watching on the cameras. And I said, but, so we're not going to put a sign out, because that way they can ask you to leave. You're just sitting here. You're not doing anything. And loitering, I think, is like a half an hour. But it was pouring rain. So he says, yeah, I understand. He says, I understand. He says, I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, well, he put the sweater on. Yeah. He opened the bag, and he right as soon as he seen the sweater, he took his coat off and he put the sweater on. And then he put his coat back on top, and oh my God, he was so appreciative. He was so thankful. I said, listen, you don't got to say thanks. Any one of us could be in that situation. And then I said, and the umbrella, make sure that you use that umbrella. Keep yourself from getting wet. I said, do you have any shoes? He said, no. And his shoes were pretty ripped, and they were worn, and they were wet. But I don't have any shoes. I mean, I didn't have any of my son's shoes. I only had that one sweater. So anyhow, we had a bit of conversation, and I didn't have any money to get him food. If I would have thought of it, I would have made him a sandwich at my house and taken it over. So, and I was thinking that in my head. But when I walked out of the store toward him, there was a young lady there. Sorry. I'm trying not to cry, because it's so sad. There was a young lady there with long blonde hair, beautiful young woman, and a heart of gold. And what she had done is she had been grocery shopping. And she went to her car, and she went into her groceries, and she bought him a couple of bananas and a couple of apples. So obviously she's aware of healthy food, and what the circumstances were for the young fellow. And so she had given him food, and he was chomping down on that banana. He was hungry. He was eating it. I didn't want to keep him talking, because I wanted him to eat. And so we bid our dues, and I said that the guy from the store was going to come out and talk to him and see what he could do to help him. So the young lad, as I said, he said, thank you, ma'am. God bless. He said, God bless you. Like, so whoever your divine is, whatever it may be, okay? So his divine was the big guy. And so he said, God bless you. And I say, keep warm, use your umbrella, and do try not to get wet. Make sure you don't lose that umbrella. Keep it with you, and keep yourself dry. Anyway, I told him, you be safe, and someone's going to come out and talk to you, take care. Okay. And we had talked about the fact that where I am in Canada, they're sending so much money overseas. They're sending so much money to so many different things. But we have people living on the street, starving. We can't afford apartments. There's no, what the hell is wrong with building a community of tiny homes for people who are down on their luck, for people who are seniors, for people who are dealing with drug addictions? Instead of giving them the damn free drugs, why don't you enroll them in a program that's going to get them off that shit? Because you know what, at one point or another, those kids were somebody's kid. Could be anybody's kid, any one of us. And they are worth the effort. And they are worth the money. But the reason why they're not going to build tiny homes is because you can't tax tiny homes. It has to be a certain size in order for you to tax it, right? So, and nobody wants, including me. I don't want to live in an area where there's a lot of people who are doing drugs and there's needles and stuff. Yeah. So a lot of us are against that, right? But help them get their life straight. Help them get their lives clean. I know people who have beat it. I know people who have beat addictions. I beat an addiction. I beat cigarettes. That's just as bad. It's just as bad. It can kill you. Drugs can kill you. Illicit drugs can kill you, but so can nicotine. So can sugar, right? So let's make a program where, you have land that you're setting aside for all these big highfalutin companies with all this damn big money to build all these fancy homes that, by the way, we can't afford to freaking live in. The rents are too high. $2,000, $3,000 for what? A one-bedroom apartment or a two-bedroom apartment? You're paying almost like $4,000. Come on, put a tiny park up and put these people who are dealing with addictions or dealing with homelessness because of lack of familial support or lack of jobs or whatever it may be. Get a couple of tiny home communities set up in different areas so they're people that have a community, people that are dealing with health problems, people who are in one, people who are dealing with drug addictions in another, where they have workers that come into a main building where you wouldn't go to their tiny home to visit them. They would come to you in a community center that's built on the property with the tiny homes. That's what you should be putting the funding into. But no. Our government is flying. They're flying across the country to go to their cabin or to go on their vacation, right? Yeah. We're talking climate change. We're talking homelessness. We're talking like low wages for us, high wages for them. Every year they vote themselves in a raise, right? The rest of us, seniors, do we get a damn raise? Oh yeah, no, we're taken care of. That's right, we're taken care of. That's right, I forgot. Don't let me forget. But you know what? A lot of us, I watched a show today on YouTube where there was a senior who's living in a trailer. Her husband just died. So she has a stroke. So she's pulling this trailer. But where she is, and this is in the States, this isn't even Canada, in the States, it's across the world, right? She's living in a trailer, and when she pays her fees and the gas, because she has to keep moving that trailer because she's got no place to park it, okay? She's got $17 left for the month, okay? She's worse off than I am, because I'm lucky. I'm lucky. I have 70, right? She has 17. So do you see, there's, even in the poor in our world, okay, there's a big gap, right? And then you got Oprah, and then you got Bill Gates, and then you got Justin Trudeau, and then you got all these people who are saying, we're on your side, we're for you, we will help you, we pray for you, we're going to get people to donate to you, right? I watch the news, I watch all this rhetoric, right? But, to be honest with you, it's the people who are suffering, the people who are struggling will be the first to give you their coat if it's raining, will be the first to give you a sandwich out of their foodstuffs, what they have left after the month bills are paid. It'll be the people who are suffering that are going to step up to the plates to help their fellow sufferers, right? So it's kind of like an emotional kind of roller coaster. I mean, one minute I'm angry as hell at our government that isn't taking care of the people that are paying their wages, right? It's our money that's paying their damn wages, and we're paying them to do what? To take care of us, to help us, to help us survive, right? To take care of all those programs that need to be put in place, not to take care of the whole world, right? First, you take care of your own little patch of grass. Because if that little patch of grass dies or withers, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody, any other country, any other people. You won't even be able to take care of yourself. However, this video is basically only supposed to be about the fact that I seen a very heartfelt situation today, and I've been there. I've been there. I bought the t-shirt. I have, I've been to the point where I was hungry. I had nothing. I mean, it was in my younger years, and it was when I had to travel for work because there was no work and I had a place for my children, always had a home for my kids, but I had to travel for work for the simple fact there was no work in the area that I lived. And so I had to travel a fair distance, right? So I know what it's like to be homeless. Yeah. And where I worked, I actually had family members that lived there who kept their door shut to me. So, the truth of it is it's a hard go. It's a hard go when you're doing it alone. It's a hard go when you're doing it as a senior. But I think that our government could do a better job of taking care of its people. I really do. And I strongly believe in tiny homes. And if I had the money, I would build one. I would build a tiny home senior complex for just seniors with specific mobility problems, okay, like myself, okay? So, but I mean, I certainly couldn't take on someone who's dealing with really heavy duty medical issues, but a tiny home community for a group of people who are basically now living in apartments that could be housing a lot of these young families, because a tiny home is specifically small enough for one person, right? But a lot of these people, these elderly like myself, are living in apartments that could very well be supporting or a supportive network for the people who are basically paying their taxes, working hard and paying their taxes, and they need these homes. It's the working poor, right? I'm below that, right? I mean, I wouldn't even tell you what I made this year because it's too much of an embarrassment, considering the fact that I've had a lot of very, very, very lucrative jobs in my lifetime. I'm very educated. I'm not stupid. I have university, I have college, I have a lot. I'm not a stupid woman. However, I did make a lot of stupid choices. I didn't save my money. I didn't invest my money. I did have to raise my children on my own, and a lot of that, that it's expensive. It's expensive. So I know what it's like. Have been there, done that, bought the freaking t-shirt, and I'm sure a lot of you out there have also been there and done that and bought the t-shirt. And then you have these highfalutin politicians, okay, who've always had that silver spoon in their mouth. They have no idea. They have no idea what it's like to have to save that last crust of bread because you don't know if you can fill your cupboards the next day. So this is my little rhetoric, and this is my truth, my journey. So I shall see you in the next video. The good Lord be with you.